All right, welcome everybody to the Green Fork Food for Thought podcast. I'm your host, Steven Zabala. Today we have Dave from Contemporary Athlete. It's a gym, personal training facility in Clifton Park, specializing in personal training, sports performance, and lifestyle transformation. He started it back in 2012, and Dave and his team of coaches provide specialized coaching for their clients and their members based on their own individual needs. So thank you. Welcome, Dave. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. We always like to have people on that are into fitness and wellness. Like I was telling you before, this is sort of a health wellness podcast. I do a little bit of everything around my 5 pillars, right? So I have physical health, mental health, financial health, spiritual health, and nutrition and all that stuff too. So anything within that realm is kind of what I like to focus on here.
They all go together.
They do, yeah. You need to be well-rounded in all of them. I feel to have a total picture of health and wellness and be well-rounded, like I said. So Contemporary Athlete. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got that started. I mean, you could start before that, but
Yeah, I've been in the industry for over 20 years now. Yeah, almost.
That's awesome.
And I got into it. I was an athlete in high school and college, and then just kind of fell in love with the gym. And I've always had other jobs on the side, but it really became my primary gig just after that. So 2005-ish.
Yeah.
And sort of worked everywhere. I did the big box thing. I did a bunch of personal training and went to grad school in Canada.
Wow, that's
worked
cool.
up there, and then ended up actually back in the area. I was doing some adjunct teaching in Vermont, and I was kind of living in the area and decided to stick around. So hung my own shingle in 2012, and rest is history.
Yeah, that's cool. So what sports did you play?
So I was a springboard platform diver.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a little different. I don't really know too much about that.
Nope.
But it's a niche thing.
Yeah, it's gymnastics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But just
doing
into a
flips
pool.
and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. So did you go to school for exercise science or?
So I ended up getting. I went to a lot of school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science phys, and then a master's degree in kinesiology.
Cool. And you just wanted to work with people, or what kind of inspired you to start your own gym?
Yeah, I really enjoyed helping people. I saw a lot of purpose in that.
Yeah.
And I think as a athlete, we all go through bumps and bruises and injuries, and fitness kind of was always a means by not only putting myself back together, but fixing a lot of things in my life, right? It in a lot of ways, it's you really learn how to flex your dedication muscle.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, that changes everything. It's the getting up to go for a run in the rain, or putting on your jacket to go outside. Like, it's easy to stay comfortable.
Yeah.
Learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, man.
is a really big thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of education in that.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking within and doing hard shit and getting through it.
Yeah, and I think people collectively don't do enough of that. I know there's a lot of David Goggins and all kinds of people out there that kind of preach that, but I think in some ways the fitness industry has done itself a major disservice in that extremism, right, drives a whole lot of people that really need health and wellness away.
Yeah.
It's like terrifying.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that doesn't have to be your entry point.
Right.
Like, we talk about this with our clients a lot, but your strength training or fitness has to dovetail into your life.
Yeah.
And whether that's going for a 10-minute walk,
3
days a week, or whatever, like, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And for us, meeting people at that starting point is really important.
Yeah.
And communicating that it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
Like, it should challenge you.
Yeah, but you shouldn't walk away being sore, like feel like you just got your ass kicked.
Yeah, I mean, there's
not every time.
Yeah, there's a time and place for that, but you also never have to get there. I mean, that's the whole point of like progressive overload and right, all the big fancy words that we use. But really, all that really means is that you're challenging yourself a little more every time you do it.
Yeah.
So instead of walking, start with a 5-minute walk.
Yeah.
Next time, go for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Go for 7. Right, and all of a sudden now you're out there walking for an hour. I'm a huge proponent of walking.
Yeah. It's accessible.
It's accessible. Everybody can do it for the most part.
You're right.
It's low cost.
Yeah.
Which makes it a very low barrier for entry.
Yeah.
And then you can go from there.
Yeah, I think something that I always preach is like talk to a professional. You know, I think the hardest part of starting anything really is like walking through the door.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where to go, there's all kinds of extreme things out there on the internet. You're not sure where to start. You look at these people with these hardcore workouts and you try to do them yourself and you end up beat up.
Yeah.
It's like, no, just go talk to a professional. They'll put you on the right path. If anything, they'll just give you a little bit of insight and education, and then you can take it from there. But, as a personal trainer myself, I say, like, you should really only need to work with me for about a year, at the most. And then hopefully, if I did my job, I've educated you enough where you can take the principles that I've taught you and go write your own programs or whatever, go work out for yourself. But that hardest part being stepping through the door and talking to somebody, I mean, it can change your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people don't utilize coaches enough.
Yeah.
I've had coaches for everything, for lifestyle, for strength training, for education, for business, for finance.
Yeah.
I don't remember a time when I didn't have a business coach. I have one now.
Yeah.
And I've been in business for over a decade.
Yeah. Coaches need coaches.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. I've worked with nutrition coaches. I am a nutrition coach,
Yeah.
But it's still that, like, even somebody who has dedicated their life to sort of this health and wellness stuff, sometimes I need a push.
Yep.
Sometimes I fall off a little bit or I just don't know. Like I started my business, my Green Fork food meal prep business, and all I knew how to do was cook food. I didn't know how to run numbers or anything like that. So a lot of trial and error. But then a business coach, just an accountant to help me not make mistakes and figure this all out, because it's pretty overwhelming. So we know how you feel when you walk into a gym and you feel overwhelmed of like, I have no idea even where to start. But that's what we're here for. Coaching. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm really in the owner seat these days.
Yeah.
But I've trained on, I don't know, thousands of people at this point in time.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is the sales side of it, and I think the fitness industry has kind of a bad rap for it in a way. We don't like to sell.
Yeah.
Right? Because it takes us outside of our comfort level.
Yeah.
And we also don't value our services.
Yeah.
You kind of have to learn it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's another sort of place where the fitness industry has made a big sidestep. They made a mistake and like everything's free.
Yeah.
And you're like, that doesn't work.
Yeah. We have people out there on Instagram that are, first of all, like 20 years old, great shape, and they really may not have the education or the experience that some of us have. And they're out there giving away free programs and saying, just drink lemon water in the morning and it'll solve all your problems. And that's not the way to go. And it undercuts the value of a true coach's service.
Yeah, and we were all beginners at some point in time.
Yeah.
So if you don't have to be that much further down the food chain than somebody else to coach them.
Yeah.
And as long as you're learning, you can continue to coach them.
Yeah.
It's when you get to that point where you have exceeded your educator, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Then you need to find somebody else, and generally it comes with a bigger price tag.
Yep.
Because you need more experience, and that person put in the long miles to get there, and the cycle continues.
Yeah. So you said you kind of stepped out of the role as a coach and more into just running your business.
Yeah, I still coach, but I coach my coaches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really after COVID, we moved into I made some personal decisions and started to move really into a model that I could scale.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to stop coaching because
Yeah.
you can't wear all the hats.
Right.
And so, my friend and business coach now, Tim, he really helped me kind of put all the pieces together. We had so many SOPs and systems, and that's kind of how my brain works.
Yeah.
In place, and so it was like, cool. How do I start hiring coaches?
Yeah.
I've had another coach that's worked with me, Ian, who's kind of my right hand guy. He's been with me for 7 years now.
Nice.
And so it started to kind of become like, cool. I'm handing this off to you.
Yeah.
Right, and then filling in the gaps, and creating jobs for people, which is really cool.
It is cool.
Yeah. It's cool to be able to help your community by also helping your community.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like level. I joke about it as like levels of aggression
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
but I'm really kind of in that founder seat.
Yeah.
Or not quite founder, definitely owner seat.
Yeah.
Now it's like, when are we opening a second location or a third or a fifth or whatever? And we just had become really organized in that way. So it's like, I'm not hiring my coaches. I have coaches that are hiring coaches, which is cool.
Yeah,
It's terrifying.
Sure. I'm sure it feels good though.
It's awesome.
Just be able to sit back and go on vacation if you need it or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of it was carving out a healthy lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was for you, but
I'm still very much in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the next question was going to be about, like burnout. Like how do you stave that off? How do you keep it fresh and healthy? Because right now, like, I'm doing a lot, and it's starting to feel like, oh man, this is getting to be a little too much.
So, I mean, as a coach, right? As a coach and a trainer, you know how to write a training program. It always starts on wherever you want to be on that last day, right?
Yeah.
And then you write it in reverse.
Right.
And I kind of looked at it that way.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, I need to, here is where I would like to be in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Here are 1 year check marks. What are my 90 days?
Yeah.
So on and so forth, down to like, what do I need to do this week?
Yeah.
There's a really great system. We implemented it a while ago. It's called EOS by Gino Wickman.
Okay.
It's a great book. It's a great series of books. He actually, this mastermind group that I'm part of, Tim brought Gino in actually himself to kind of coach us up over a weekend, which was cool.
Yeah.
But it's really just a framework as to how to run meetings, how to run a business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether you're one man op,
Yep.
or you have hundreds of employees.
Yeah.
It's a really cool format. But the burnout question is important. I think we all go through it as coaches
Yeah.
and leaders and business owners, and you just wear all the hats, and there's just not enough time in the day.
Yep.
And figuring out where for me, I can't speak for you, but for me, it was figuring out where my time was best spent and the things that fulfilled me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay working a 100-hour week. I did it for a long time.
Yeah.
I think most of us have.
Oh yeah.
And that thing that gets you up at 4 a.m. and puts you to bed at 10, keeping that fire alive, but making sure that I set very clear parameters for myself. Like in the next 90 days, I can do this for 90 days, and that's all I'm going to do it for is 90 days.
Yep.
And we have to get to this thing, and then I can take a breath.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, we need to get our revenue from X to Y.
Yeah.
I'll coach all the morning sessions, and I'll do sales every day, all night, Monday through Sunday, to get us from point A to point B. At this point in time, when we hit it, now I can hire another coach.
Yeah.
Now I can just do sales 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Right, and then setting clear guidelines and markers, and making sure that my levels of delegation were really important, and also knowing when to ask for help and just say, like, hiring an accountant, hiring a bookkeeper, hiring like, cool, this is money well spent because I should be over here doing this.
Yeah.
This drives the business. This steals time from me.
Right.
And that was a big step.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, like you said, just allocating your time to where it's most well spent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of training do you do over there at the Contemporary Athlete? Is it strength and conditioning? Is it?
Yeah, we're pretty standard strength and conditioning facility. We, like we were talking about, we only offer semi-private personal training.
Yep.
I really made that decision unintentionally over a decade ago,
Yeah.
but really kind of knew what to call it about 5 or 6 years ago. And the funny thing about the fitness industry, at least where we are, is it's kind of like 5 years behind the rest of the country.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Like you move back here and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling him off camera that, I kind of got into this whole fitness thing through yoga, through sort of unorthodox methods of training with kettlebells, like kettlebell flow and steel mace and, animal flow and things that are not necessarily mainstream. It's not basic strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
And when I was in Arizona, people were hip to that. People were all about it. They wanted to try it. So it was kind of cool for me to be in demand. And then I came back and joined like a group training facility, and people looked at me like I had two heads when I asked them to like crawl on the ground or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little discouraging at first, but then you kind of learn like, okay, I can throw it in here and there, and not necessarily go full bore with it. But yeah, you're right. Like this area is a little bit behind, say New York or LA or whatever.
It'll catch up. It always does.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from going to like Perform Better conferences or whatever is there's a ton of great information out there.
Yeah.
And when you bring it home, everybody wants to implement all the cool new stuff that you learned. And you're like, okay, and I do this with my coaching team too. Like, okay, let's sit on this for 90 days.
Yeah.
One, because it doesn't fit into what we're doing right now. And within the EOS framework, like it actually helps keep owners who do a million things and expect everybody that work for them or work with them to do a million things as well.
Yeah.
From dropping a brand new thing on somebody next week, you're like, cool, we're going to do this thing. And they're like, what? We didn't finish the last thing.
Right.
So with that framework, we apply that to training as well, where it's like, great, we learned this thing. Where do we want to implement it within people's training programs? And we don't want to overwhelm them.
Yeah.
But that's a good way to keep it new and fresh.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, push-ups are push-ups.
Yep.
And either you love them or you hate them, but you still got to do them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing with training is like you kind of have to buy into that.
Yep.
But if you can get somebody I'm a big proponent of rucking. I'm a big proponent of crawling. We do a ton of crawling with our clients as long as they can.
Yeah. Right.
But again, it's different. It can be fun.
Yeah.
The basics are the basics for a reason.
Yeah.
And so as long as that's your macros, right?
You can sprinkle in other little things here and there.
Yeah, and you get somebody that's scared of doing something so new instead of like a whole flow class.
Yeah.
You do a couple moves.
Yep.
Oh, great! This is fun. I can do this, and then they sort of master that pattern.
Yeah.
And then you can add something else if they want to. Or you're like, that was cool. But I'm out.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to doing this thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, that's the smart way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
I remember when I came back and kettlebells were still kind of new as far as like doing a ton of different things with them. Kettlebell clean, even something that's now people are doing them and they're considered pretty simple, but just teaching one movement at a time and taking your time with it, implementing that over a course of a few weeks. And now we're at the point where people are doing kettlebell flows. Yeah. So, I did learn to kind of ease people into it, meet them where they're at. And some people still don't like the kettlebells, and that's fine. There's different modifications for that. So I primarily work with like a general population, we'll say, not a whole lot of athletes, although I am personally training one lady who's an absolute beast, and we're working on strength, and her numbers are getting up, and it's exciting. But who do you generally work with down there?
So, really, after COVID, we took a pretty big shift. Mm-hmm. It actually got me to a place about a year ago where I was like, I think I might actually rebrand.
Yeah.
Chose not to. We're still Contemporary Athlete.
Yeah.
But our student athlete and even our adult athlete population was kind of like a 60-40 split between that and Gen Pop. Mm-hmm. And these days we're probably closer to like 90% Gen Pop, 10% student athlete.
Yeah.
We don't really market to the athlete side of things. Not that we're not able to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's been our bread and butter for a long time, but it just really shifted after COVID.
Yeah.
So many coaches got out, sports teams and everything took a major hit.
Yeah.
No matter what your stance is on what happened.
Yeah.
Just, marketing changed, everything changed, and we had already been running the semi-private model. Before that, we just didn't call it that.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a big step. I was like, okay, yes, we're suffering through this thing. We're doing the remote coaching and blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
that everybody did, that's still around.
Yeah.
And, we just got to a place where it was like, cool, we're doing this thing. We can reopen the gym. People can be safe, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And just move to, our format's one coach to 6 clients. That's our ratio.
Yeah.
So it's like, you still end up with that good kind of class community feel, but everybody's on their own training program.
Yeah.
You can,
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, so semi-private training, everybody gets their own program to follow, and the coach is there to just kind of guide everybody along, or how does that work?
yeah, so we have a proprietary system that we put together. It's called MAPS.
Okay.
It's essentially an acronym, but it's movement, accountability, personalization, and solution setting.
Mm-hmm.
And we run it every 90 days with our clients on an individual basis. We use a lot of techie.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we encourage our clients to do an in-body scan once a month.
Yep.
But part of our MAPS meeting is we do an in-body scan. We have a really cool machine called a Keno Tech.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, it's awesome. So everybody does some sort of functional movement screen,
Yep.
hopefully.
Yep.
Whether it's the true FMS or something else.
Yep.
This helped us standardize things. So I would think obviously your highest level of coach is running your diagnostics.
Yep.
Right? They've seen the most, they've made the most changes, they've made the most mistakes.
Right.
And so you wouldn't necessarily want an entry level coach to run that process.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like you gotta learn it, but
Yeah.
this is really cool. So it uses a LiDAR camera, and you can design your functional screen however you want it. So over at squat assessment, X,
Right.
Y, and Z. There's baseline stuff, but let's say you're working with baseball players, right? And you're really deeply looking at range of motion within the shoulder.
Yeah.
You can design a whole program so you're taking this person or this athlete through all the motions that you really want in front of this camera, and it scores it.
Yeah.
And it's not truly AI, but what it does is it's always going to give us the same score.
Right.
So whether it's me running it,
Yeah.
or Ian, or an intern,
Yeah.
we're always going to get the same readout, and whoever's reading that with the client, but also writing our training programs, Ian writes all of our training programs.
Yeah.
Used to be me, now it's him.
Yeah.
The score's always the same.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, who did this, right? Who did this scan?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We should redo this, right? Now it's
Yeah.
like, cool, you got a score of 87. Here's your flexion, X, Y, and Z. Like,
Yeah.
great. So we need to watch out for. We already know that you had a knee replacement, but now we need to watch out for these things. We won't program these movements for the next 90 days. You're working
Yeah.
with your physical therapist, and then you reassess. And you're like, cool, you made all of these great changes. One, it's a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Because they see it.
Yeah.
It's not so vague.
Right.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the great thing about introducing tech to
Yeah.
what we do, is it's still an art. Like, the art of coaching is a thing.
Yes.
But you
Yeah.
can put all these things in place where you're like, as the consumer or the user, you're gonna go, oh, cool, my in-body score went up,
Yeah.
right? Because all of these factors changed,
Yeah.
or didn't. What do I need to change in my nutrition?
Yeah.
Or my sleep habits, or whatever.
Yeah.
The Keno Tech does the same thing for us for movements, where it's like, great, you increased, we'll use the knee
Sure.
right? Example
Yeah.
again, right? Now you're past 110 degrees. Now we're closer to 90. The work that you're doing with your physical therapist dovetails with what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you were on track to be there in 6 months. Now, if we stay on track, you're going to be there in 4.
Yeah.
You're like, cool. I'm doing all the right things.
Yep.
I'm staying out of pain, injury. There's not a lot of guesswork.
Yeah.
And I have a good communication cycle with my team.
Yeah.
And so that's the second part of it is like goal setting, right?
Yeah.
It's all the stuff that we should do,
Right.
but we just bundled it up and said, look, this is how this works.
Yeah.
And here's all of your scores, and you'll always get them, and we can track it all.
Yeah.
And then setting expectations is a big part of it,
Yeah.
right? What are your expectations from us?
Yeah.
Here are our expectations from you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my years of experience, it's like, I see you for maybe 3 hours a week or something, but that's not enough. You need to be doing stuff on your own.
Yeah.
You need to keep a proper nutrition plan. I can't force feed you. I can't force you to go on a walk when you're not with me, whatever.
Yeah.
But back to the data, data doesn't lie, and it's a great indicator of tracking your progress. You see that, I see that with nutrition, right? Like I want to see what your data is, how you've actually been eating, so I know that you're not lying to me, and I can tell, like, yeah, the numbers don't lie. Like you didn't say what you were gonna do, or you did a great job.
Yeah.
I actually just did a screening today. I'm not sure if it was the same one, but it was super cool. He put me in front of an iPad and
Okay.
I had all these, on my shoulders, on my spine, on my hips, and I went through this movement scan, and then he actually put me on a treadmill, and it read out like force output through
Cool.
each leg, or through each foot, and it turns out I'm favoring like my right leg a little bit more. So because I'm training for a half marathon in September.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that data analysis, and it's super cool. Best way to start, like I said, is to work with a coach, especially if they have equipment like this.
Yeah.
Being able to track your progress is just going to keep you accountable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yeah, like I said, like you can visibly, as a coach with experience, say, oh, your squat looks a lot better. You have more ankle flexion. You're able to get a little lower. Your pain's gone away, whatever. But this actually will tell you how much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that the system works, it's video analysis.
Yeah.
So we go through it, and then basically it does a side by side. We project it on a big TV, walk you through it, and like, cool. This is when we talk about your knees collapsing. This is what's happening. This is what it should look like next to your, the 3D model.
Yeah.
Right. And people are like, oh wow, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't feel that. I'm like, well, no, that is your path of least resistance.
Yeah.
If we can fix these things,
Yeah.
then you actually move into a place of positivity,
Right.
That isn't going to lead to just dysfunction down the road.
Yeah.
And so, as we've implemented more and more tech into what we do, our results get better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then we use, there's a ton of platforms out there, but we use Train Heroic as our program delivery.
Okay.
So, back in the day, it was a clipboard and,
Yeah.
checking off the boxes for reps and sets and everything
Yeah.
else. Now it's just a digital version of that. And
Yeah.
so it lets us, one, manage all of our members.
Yeah.
Because at some point you get to a place where you can't handle it. There's not enough hours in the day to write all the training programs,
Yeah.
compile all the notes, everything. And so this puts a little bit of onus on the client, right? It's
Yeah.
their job to put their weights in X, Y, and Z, but the program's there.
Yeah.
And the coaching team knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And we do a weekly meeting on Mondays. It's 90 minutes long and kind of go through the whole membership.
Wow. Yeah.
Talk about any issues, dysfunction, people on vacation, X, Y, and Z, everything you could possibly think of for the most part.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter who you're working with. Everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. That's high level.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So you're able to give them homework and stuff too on that? Yeah.
Yeah, so when people are like, oh, I'm going on vacation, I want to put my membership on hold. One, we don't do holds.
Yeah.
Two, like, well, where are you going? What do you have access to?
Yeah.
How long are you going for? How many days a week do you plan on working out?
Yeah.
Oh, X, Y, and Z. Great. I'll have your training program for your vacation. in your Train Heroic, because you're not going without a phone, right? Nope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, that's great. Keep them accountable.
Yeah.
Do you partner with anybody locally? I know on your site you said you work with Jenna at Six Pillars.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's awesome.
I've had her on here. Super smart lady. Does she send you guys people to work with?
Yeah. So it's funny, Jenna, I was on vacation.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't done that, you should do that.
Oh man, I need one. I definitely need one.
I was on vacation, and I think she messaged me over, it might have been Instagram. It was, I think it was social media somewhere.
Yeah.
And she wanted to use our InBody.
Okay.
Which is important for her, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely, we'll figure out a thing. And then we started meeting on Fridays, and I was already trying to figure out an all-inclusive program.
Yeah.
You know, because the way that I look at things, especially for business or whatever, it's like it's done on your own.
Yeah.
Right? Done with you or done for you.
Yeah.
You know, the done on your own is I'll figure it out. I'll get a membership to the Purple Gorilla and do some machines and call it a day.
Yeah.
You know, the coach, right? What we do and what you do.
Yeah.
It is for us is that semi-private model where it's like we're going to do this with you.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, all I need you to do is show up.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of take care of everything else.
Yeah.
And then done for you is kind of this partnership that we put together. And so we handle the coaching side of it, coaching, training, accountability in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
She handles a lot of the education side, obviously peptides or semaglutide, depending on what somebody needs.
Right.
That's not the right solution for everybody.
Right.
But that's for me, that's our all-in-one package.
Yeah.
Like, cool. This is a year-long process.
Yeah.
Yes, it has a high price point.
Yeah.
But the value is going to far outweigh this because you're going to be able to use, you know, some medical help, right? To possibly get over that hump that you haven't, right? That same 90-day journey where you're like, I lost 10 pounds, and now you're like, you put it back on, and right? We all know the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can help, right? And we have clients that, and part of the reason why we partnered with Jenna is that we had clients whose InBody scores changed so rapidly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, you need to talk to so-and-so. I think they're really ill.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I started doing, you know, Ozempic or Wegovy, and you're like,
oh, there you go.
That would have been really important to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily with her, but that kind of put that together. I was like, we're all humans. We all want to press the easy button.
Sure.
I have nothing against that.
Yeah, me neither. I was going to say, I think it's great for people that need it, you know, but I don't think that you should rely solely on it. You know, I think you need to strength train and you need to move your body and keep a good nutrition plan.
Yep.
And then that other stuff can come in, you know.
And for us, those clients, you know, kind of pre our partnership, those clients that we saw those drastic changes from had already set all the great foundational habits. They were already eating well. They had already, right? They strength train 3 or 4 days a week. They're being active outside of work or when we see them. You know, they'd already done all the hard miles, and they just need a little bit of help to get over that next hump.
Yeah.
And now they're in that place where it's maintenance. They're on, if they haven't come off of it, they're on such a low dosage.
Yeah.
And some of it's, you know, and some of our clients that I've talked to, you know, it's like it's helped quiet the food voices in my head.
Yeah.
And X, Y, and Z. You're like,
Yeah.
cool. So it's checking a psych box too. Awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're working with a professional, probably your GP.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, that's out of my lane.
Right.
And I'm going to stay in my lane.
Yeah.
And just do this thing and be really good at it.
Yeah.
And so how do we put those things together? Because we do nutrition coaching as well,
Mm-hmm.
but at some point, it's outside of my scope of practice or my coaches. And are we really looking at fixing something from a medical standpoint via food? And that's now definitely outside our scope of practice, right?
Right.
That's RD.
Yeah.
That's like a whole other thing. So,
Yeah.
we refer back and forth.
Yeah.
But we built a whole system around this, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And I think it, like you said, coaches need coaches. It's important to know when you're out of your scope. And there's a whole, especially nowadays with peptides and all that stuff. You see a lot of NPs popping up with their individual practices, and it can definitely provide a lot of crossover with gyms and nutrition coaches, and us all working together. I think is just a super smart way to go.
Yeah, I mean we're a micro gym, right? We're boutique. Even if we get to that place where I'd like to be like in 10 years, we're never going to hold a candle to the Equinoxes, the Club Fits. Like we just can't move that fast. I don't have enough venture capital to do that.
Right.
So you're going to start seeing those things happen inside the gym very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's for us very small operators.
Yep.
If you're not looking at that, you're going to be way behind the curve because they're going to start offering that as part of their services and packages, and they'll have an NP on site, and why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to do the health and wellness package.
Yeah.
And the ability to upsell.
Yep.
Right? So coming on your $20 a month membership, but all of a sudden now you have 2 days a week of one-on-one personal training, you're doing some classes, you're doing this, and all of a sudden your gym membership is $700. You're like, oh, this is the best investment ever. And you're like, correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think one of the questions was, how do you set yourself apart from other gyms in the area? But it seems pretty clear that you take a lot of care and use the tech and use the different partnerships and create a very holistic methodology, at your gym, which is, I think, huge.
Thanks.
And just being invested and keeping up on all that stuff and all the new stuff that's happening is really huge.
Thanks.
Yeah. What sort of continuing ed do you do and have for your coaches and stuff? Is it whatever they want to do, or?
Yeah, so we put aside 5% of our budget towards Con Ed.
Yeah.
Generally, the way that we frame it is that we have some pre-existing things we want our coaches to learn and read. Whether they study for the certificate or not is a question mark.
Yeah.
The certification game is such a thing.
I hate it.
Yeah.
With NASM, sorry to interrupt,
No.
but with NASM, it's these continuing ed things are kind of bullcrap, and you have to just recertify, basically pay them $300 every couple years to keep going. And I think it's just, if you keep up with continuing ed, and you work in a facility where everybody's kind of upping themselves, there's no need to recertify with all that crap.
No, I require all my coaches to carry one certification,
Yeah.
whatever one they think is the most important. So Ian just keeps on top of his CSCS.
Yeah.
Me too, but all my coaches are at CSCS. They've changed the criteria as well.
Yeah.
Back when I did it, you didn't necessarily have to have a degree in the field to sit for the test.
Yeah.
That's changed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. I mean, some are. How many people change career paths?
Right.
And so you used to be an engineer, and now you got into fitness, and now you can't sit for this thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense. But anyways, that's a different conversation entirely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, kind of is really important for us. I usually try to encourage them to pick sorry, I'm trying to think about how I want to phrase it. I'd like them to do a workshop at least once a year, whether it's doesn't have to be perform better, but perform better, or do the CFSC, right, Mike Boyle's cert, or whatever, something that's hands-on.
Yeah.
Go and be with other people
Yeah.
like us, learn, have conversations, network,
Yeah.
Communicate, bring stuff home.
Yeah.
We'll put it aside for 90 days,
Right.
and then we'll talk about how we want to implement, and then also how do you we do a lot of in-house.
Yeah.
So it's cool, if you go do this, you can come home and teach everybody.
Yeah.
Or if you go pick up this kettlebell thing,
Yeah.
you can come home and teach everybody.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, it's delegation, right, of education, and then assemblage on the back end.
Yeah.
And so, we have 6 core values, and one of them is really about education. It's self-growth.
Yeah.
So kind of always reading, always watching, always listening to something.
Yeah.
I'm not a stickler about anything in particular.
Right.
But be involved in more than just showing up and doing the job.
Yeah. You gotta stay hip to the game, right? You gotta, because it's moving so fast and there's so many different cool things that are out there. And even just if going to sit for something that maybe you've already done before, it's just like you said, that just the growth part of it, the networking. I remember the last one that I did was the landmine certification, which is, again, one of those unorthodox things, but it's so cool. And just being around those like-minded coaches and just bouncing ideas off each other and talking about stuff that's just crazy. I don't know, this guy brought up, this is random, but this thing that they're using in deserts that pulls moisture out of the air and it provides clean water for people.
Yeah.
And just I don't know, I don't get that every day, talking to people. As a coach, I'm often the one that's giving information. And so it's nice to just be around people that have information to give and share. And I like to learn. I'd like to say if I could, I'd just be in academia for the rest of my life, but it's a little too expensive.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
Right?
I try. I read a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if you're not doing that, I don't know. I can't imagine living the same 6 months of my life over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
I'm always reading. I'm always consuming.
Yeah.
Even when I'm home, half the time, if I'm watching anything, it's educational stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's not even I'm gonna bum out and watch some TV show. Not that there's anything against that. I do that too, but a lot of times it's oh, what's this thing on fixing cars or whatever, right?
Yeah.
One, their interests, but two, I'm learning all along the way.
Yeah.
And I think if you're not passionate about education, you're going to struggle in the fitness industry.
For sure.
Because it's still relatively new as an industry,
Mm-hmm.
in the grand scheme of things, especially the nutrition field.
Yeah.
And everything's changing so fast, but also to be aware that baseline things never really change.
Yeah.
And so you have these outlier things that are great. So for example, with your landmine training, we do landmine work as well.
Yeah.
It's a great tool for us we have a client that has kind of some dysfunctional wrist issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, deadlift, anything that's grip work is hard.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, instead of, we can do hip thrusts instead of deadlifts.
Yep.
We can do landmine hack squats instead of barbell hack squats or barbell squats or whatever, because we're removing some flexion issues out of that wrist. You're cool, you can continue training and training the muscles that you need to in a safe, applicable way. Do we do this with everybody? No.
Yeah.
But we have all these tools,
Yep.
so why don't we learn how to use them?
Yeah.
And then figure things out from there.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with bands.
Yep.
Right? It's all just a tool.
Yeah, and I think that's where these little certifications or workshops or whatever come into play. It's as a coach, expanding your vocabulary of movement to say if somebody comes in and they've got they can't do a squat, it's oh well, we can do this instead, but you wouldn't know that unless you stayed hip to what's going on. I also think, to your point, the principles of everything always remain the same, always remain true. And there are some outliers, but there's also a lot of misinformation out there and all the flashy stuff that people want to do. And, that might be cool for somebody that can do it, that's somebody that's elite or has great mobility, but, it's not for everybody. And I think when you learn from good coaches, you understand that. They should help you understand that, yeah, sure, go ahead and try that thing, but just, be careful.
Yeah, it ties into, all of your pillars are kind of just good, they're foundational pillars of life.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. If you're looking at investing, right, you should be prospecting with a certain percentage of whatever funds you have.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with education, right? You should be going and learning new things. Are they fringe? Maybe.
Yeah.
Can they benefit you? Yeah, it could have a huge benefit. Might not. But it's not like you went all in on it.
Right.
And that, same with business. And one of the things for us is my world is marketing these days.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our tried and true things, but those change, right?
Yeah.
Some things that don't change, your email list, you
Yeah.
own,
Yeah.
no matter what,
Yeah.
right? Meta can go down tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like how many times, I can't tell you how many times my Facebook account's been like closed or whatever. You
Yeah.
got to set up a new one, and this whole game. You're like,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I still have all these people's emails and their phone numbers.
Yep.
I can talk to them whenever I want. But if you're not prospecting, like let's go try these. We're doing mailers right now. Like what's old is
Yeah.
new again.
Yeah.
And we talk about that
funny.
as well, where it's like, can you just call people?
Yeah, it's funny that you're
Look at
talking
this.
about email and text as like old school
Yeah.
methods of communication.
Well, I think they were fresh. We still do both,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We still do
You
still
have
do
to,
SMS
social
and people want to be communicated to on their terms and their way.
Yeah.
So if you're a text person, great, we'll text.
Yeah.
You want to do email? Great, we'll email.
Yeah,
But I'd always rather just have a conversation with somebody.
for sure.
One, it happens faster.
Yep.
You
Yep.
can- right? There's nothing lost in translation.
Yeah.
Because we've all done that. You read a text message and you're like, they're so mad.
Yeah.
And you call them and you're like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Did you not send this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do with just disgruntled people. Like there's a lot of variables in what I do as far as meal prep, and sometimes a meal will get left out, and I'll get an email, and I'm like, it comes off to me because I care so much, as like them being super upset, and then I'll reach out and calm that fire down, and most of the time it's just me freaking out because I want to provide the best quality and service, and
Well, you care.
yeah,
And that's kind of the terrible part.
Yeah.
Is that you care.
yeah,
But we all go through that. We go through, when people reach out and they're like, I want to cancel my membership. And
Yeah.
they don't want to cancel their membership. It's just that life's crazy right now and
Yeah.
they can't train 3 days a week. So why don't we go to one for the next 30 days?
yeah,
And then when we're ready, we'll bump back up. Oh, I didn't know I can do that.
yeah,
So you went from extremism,
yep,
right? To like, just have a conversation, and that's a big part of coaching, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm much better off at just talking with somebody face to face and answering questions and reading body language
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Because most of the time people get disgruntled on text, they can go off, but they wouldn't do that to your face,
No, never.
Yeah. What's next for you? What do you talked about opening another location.
Yeah, we're in the process. I'd like to have a second location open by the end of this year.
Nice.
Third next year.
Hell yeah, man.
And then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But the model that we have built scales,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way to help people
Mm-hmm.
in that way that obviously we just talked about
Yeah.
or have been talking about.
Yeah.
But you also don't need a huge footprint to do it in. And one of the biggest things for me is that like my team's work-life balance is very good.
Yeah.
Right, I either have morning coaches or evening coaches.
Yeah.
My leadership program or my leadership team, like they have normal jobs.
Yeah.
Nobody's working crazy hours, and we pay well.
Yeah.
Or
Well, that's-
what they should get paid.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
good. That's good. You see a lot of places don't do that. I mean, like you said, you're not a big box gym.
No.
And it seems like you really care about not only your members, but your staff as well, your team. And that's really what it's all about. And I think people can lose that when they start to scale out,
Yeah, I think one of the scariest things about being where we are and kind of being what I think somewhat cutting edge,
Sure.
for at least for the area,
Yeah.
is that a lot of it is explaining to people what it is and why it's different,
Yeah.
and why the price tag that it has is what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not your $10 a month,
Yeah.
Planet Fitness membership, or we don't do classes, right? There's a million boot camps, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
Like I love moving around, being sweaty, and listening to loud music, and
Yeah.
and like there's a vibe that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not necessarily what our members are looking for, right?
Yeah.
They did that. They did a
Yeah.
lot of that. They're like, well, I got bad knees and X, Y, and Z, and like
Yeah.
I just don't have the eyes on me that I would like,
Mhm.
or the communication, right? Because you're
Yeah.
one of 20, 15 to 50 people.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't work for this group.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen it too, where you're like, this kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But you got to pay the bills and keep the lights on and pay your staff and pay
Yeah.
your insurance and
Yeah.
marketing and everything else. And so for me, when we moved to this, it became it's the sweet spot,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
And because of that, it scales.
Yeah. So I'm part of this group called Coach Connect. My buddy Mike puts it on.
Okay.
We were talking about like what makes a great coach or what makes a great gym, and it ultimately comes down to the level of coaching, right? So I work at a place where we do group classes,
Yep.
Battleground Fitness in Sarasota.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
do 2 days a week there, and I pride myself on being able to kind of call audibles, if I need to. And we keep a smaller class size for that reason, where if there's, we don't have 20, 30 people in a class, but I can see where like, oh, my knee hurts, what should I do? And then you have to worry about 20 other people. Like that's what we want to avoid, right? So I think that's super important in a gym, and even in like something like you're doing, if you have would you say 6 people? 6 people.
Yeah.
And somebody comes in, they're not feeling up to it that day or whatever, your coach is able to call an audible and say, all right, we're going to back down on reps, or we're going to exclude this thing or whatever. I feel like that's super important to be able to do.
Yeah, you can have that conversation on the floor, and everybody's had that, and so there's no feeling like you have to. How do I want to phrase it? There's no feeling of urgency or immediacy, where it's like, hey, if I don't go watch this person deadlift over here, things can go sideways.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to you about how to not do push-ups today.
Right.
Because you tweaked your arm jumping in the pool on the 4th of July. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because all of our clients have been there. They've been that person having the conversation. So
Yeah.
they're good. They're also good about policing themselves and being like, cool, I'm going to wait till I have eyes on to do this thing.
Yep.
And that the 6 was our number.
Yeah.
Like we did classes in teams and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And from a coaching standpoint, 1, you can't watch everybody.
Right.
And 2, you stop coaching for performance, and now you're coaching for risk.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so like if you're coaching, 1, your programming has to basically come down to the level of least resistance, right? And lowest, not education of the person, but their ability level.
Yeah.
So now you're going, and I like push-ups, so I'm just gonna use push-ups. If you have 25 people in a room doing push-ups, you're not watching for better push-ups. You're watching for bad push-ups to fix those.
Yeah.
So it becomes like, what's the adage? The squeaky wheel, I guess, or the nail.
Yep.
Kind of adage. With this, right after 6, it starts to get a little squirrely that way for us.
Yeah.
And so that's right. Like coach education is high. We're always working on it.
Yep.
And we have a big space. We're 5,000 square feet.
Nice.
So we call them pods, but we'll run 2 pods during busier times. So it's still 1 to 6 is the ratio, but we split the room in half.
Yeah.
The facility's mirrored. So it's like all racks, all the same equipment on one side, all racks and all the same equipment on the other. And then you can basically split the gym.
Yeah.
These 6 people are who I'm coaching.
Yeah.
And then, sort of back to back,
Yeah.
the other coach is handling that side of the gym as well.
Yeah.
And it's wide open. It's all about sight lines. So you can also be, if there is only 5 people in there and you're working with somebody doing sled work on the turf, you can still see everybody in racks doing X, Y, and Z, or if they're not, doing kettlebell swings or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we kind of talk from a coaching standpoint. We kind of talk about the always circling shark.
Yeah.
You're just always you're a shark.
Yeah.
You just work in the room and you circle in a circle.
Yep.
Next session, go the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that lets you stay high intent.
Yes.
Right, and high touch without people feeling like they're getting lost or left behind.
Yep.
not personalized. Sometimes, you have somebody that's brand new and everybody's been brand new with us.
Yep.
And so they also understand and respect that.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, this Ian or Koo or Ethan or whoever, they're going to work with them kind of intently for a little while.
Yeah.
And I know that I can handle my own stuff.
Yeah.
And if I have questions, will get answered. And if I need a spot or whatever, that'll happen. But everybody's sort of been in that I'm brand new stage, and somebody else in the gym has been like, it's fine. You're going to be fine.
Right.
No one cares what you're doing.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's the benefit of the small training, small group size, really. And, that comes with a higher price point, but you get so much more value out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You get what you pay for, really.
Yeah.
And I think these huge group classes are not the way to go. I feel like Planet Fitness is fine if you're somebody that knows what you're doing or don't really care. But, if you're just beginning, I think the smartest move is to start out with somebody that's going to give you the attention and value.
Yeah, it's worth it it's funny, if you learn all the skills, right? Again, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
If you pay a lot of money at the beginning, it saves you a ton of money on the back end.
Sure. Yeah.
Where you're like, I don't need a coach anymore.
Yep.
Or if I do, I need a refresher or this or that, or they're my trusted partner. Like we've had clients that leave and those that still have my personal number, not many these days.
Yeah.
We'll reach out and be like, hey, what do you think about this training thing or whatever? And I'm always happy to help. It's never a sales conversation. It's like, cool, you should look at this, or like, oh, if you haven't looked at this, or like, oh, if you wait a week, you can get a discount through these sites for X, Y, and Z tools. We're here to be in your corner.
Yeah.
Even after you're gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I think it's another thing that we do poorly as an industry is like, one, it's personal.
Yeah.
And so people's feelings get hurt even though it's business.
Yeah.
And instead of being able to separate those two, be like, cool, you're busy or whatever, or you don't see value in the service anymore. We will be here when you're ready.
Right. Yeah. Always leave it on a good note, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to make enemies out there.
No. And, we kind of live in a small area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not worth it.
Yeah, right. People talk.
Yeah, they talk, and you only hurt yourself down the road.
For sure.
And I think I've been doing this for a while too.
Yeah.
And I think one of my biggest takeaways is that, like any business, if you get to that place where you're a veteran, all the other veterans are still around too.
Yeah.
And so you realize being cutthroat doesn't serve anybody.
Right.
And especially in the fitness industry, like 80% of people don't work out.
Yeah.
I think that's actually shifted. I think there's actually more people working out now based on the most recent, Ursa numbers or whatever.
Yeah.
But, that's a whole lot of people that need help, and there's not enough of us.
Yeah.
Whether you're Planet Fitness or Fent or Golds or whoever.
Yeah.
Like there's just not enough people in this industry. And coaching's hard.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It doesn't have to be a passion project, but you have to be invested.
For sure.
And and there's so many people that are scared.
Yeah.
It's like, can we just honestly, if we kind of all work together, everybody wins. That
Yeah.
rising tides raises all ships.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
And I know Mike. He's down the street from me.
Yeah.
He runs a great op. I send people that way.
Yeah.
We just had some people we had a couple of consultations a couple weeks ago for looking for one-on-one, and we don't offer it. And I was like, here's 3 people in the area that I know that do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Not necessarily call them in this order, but
Sure.
call them.
Yeah. I always try to do that too. Because I've got people reaching out from Troy or whatever, Albany, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to travel that far or whatever, but here's some spots you can go to. And I think, just working together. I mean, like I said, one coach might have some really cool niche thing that you want to bring in and teach a workshop with, like landmine stuff or whatever. Like I went, I'm trying to get Mike to let me do a workshop down there, a landmine workshop for his crew and people, but but that kind of thing, right? It's like, if somebody's really good at this one thing, bring them in, let them educate your coaches. It's not about, trying to take people away or that scarcity mindset, which I think is, especially like you said, in a small town like this, we need to be working together and just raising up the community and making everybody healthier,
Yeah, it's silly not to.
Yeah, we're in this business because we care about people. That's why we got into it. That's the why behind what we do. So yeah, any way we can do that, that's what we're here for. I've got one last question that's kind of out there, maybe.
Sure.
I ask everybody on the podcast because I'm a food guy, right? So it's the last meal question. So if you were on death row for whatever reason, maybe you did something terrible, maybe you got framed, who knows?
Okay.
You're gonna die tomorrow, and you can have anything you want to eat. It's a full meal. It can be a smorgasbord of anything you want, anything to eat, anything to drink. What would it be?
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I should preface that with I'm really into food.
Yeah.
I'm big on cooking. It's kind of a big part of my background.
Yeah, good.
But I think you can't really go wrong with like a perfect ribeye.
Oh yeah.
Mid-rare.
Yeah.
You gotta go scallop potatoes.
Yep.
And believe it or not, I'm kind of a nut about Brussels sprouts.
Oh really?
It's kind of my jam.
Yeah, that's like a either love it or hate it kind of thing. I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love them too.
Yeah.
Classic sort of steak and potatoes, but
Yeah.
just kind of can't go wrong.
Yeah. What are you having to drink?
Oh, last drink, huh? Gotta go old fashioned.
Old fashioned, yeah. Yeah, whiskey.
For sure.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Yeah, I would have a steak as well. Steak and eggs, pancakes, potatoes, tall beer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I know we're kind of wrapping things up, but I think that's, especially nutrition side of stuff, making sure food fits for people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a zealot.
Right.
My team aren't zealots.
Yeah.
Like, I see people out and they're like, you're having drinks? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, right.
Aren't you? Like, I do enjoy the working out side of things, but, there's a social arm too.
For sure.
And, grilled chicken, broccoli, and rice is not going to be my jam forever.
Yeah, I know. I gotta have a Philly cheesesteak every once in a while or whatever. Like, I'll dig in.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like homemade or if I go to a place, like if I'm in New York City, I'm gonna have some pizza. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Were you ever a chef or anything, or you just are a big foodie?
I grew up in the restaurant industry in a number of ways.
Yeah.
When I got out of grad school, that was kind of always the thing that like paid my bills. So
Sure.
I'd back a house, front a house.
Yeah.
When I got out of grad school, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
And but now ironically I do some pop-ups with my friend Colin Miner, who up in Glens Falls, and so we'll do a pop-up every once in a while. But I love to cook, and we've actually talked about the meal prep thing once or twice, and I just have like PTSD about it.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, I love it, but do I want to bring it back as like a job thing, or do I want this thing that I love? You know?
Yeah, for sure. And you can't spread yourself too thin because
No.
I got into it because I've worked in kitchens my whole life. I've worked in every facet of kitchens, catering, small business, short order, all kinds of stuff. And, I got burnt out with all of it. And finally I was like, I'm done with this. Got into personal training.
Yeah.
My clients were not seeing the results they wanted to as far as weight loss. And I'm like, well, what about nutrition? I'm like, we got to talk about that. And they were like, oh, I'm too busy, whatever. I don't know how. So it ended up me being their private chef essentially and making their meals for them, and that caught on, and then it turned into this business. And I was like, all right, if I'm going to go back to the kitchen, it's going to be on my terms. I'm going to cook what I want, and it's going to be my model. And so now, similar to what you're talking about, like I've put in a lot of hours, and I still do, but it's offered me this flexibility in my schedule, and I value my time a lot more, my time off.
Yeah.
And I'm able to do cool stuff like this. So, I came back to it, but it was in my own way, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think you ever escape the industry.
Yeah.
It's there's parts of it that you love that you never stop loving.
Yeah.
But you'd have to come to your own personal agreement on what is it that I want
Yeah.
and how does this work?
Yeah.
You know, and I'll do crazy high-end stuff at home every once in a while
Yeah.
because I want to. It's
Yeah.
got, you know, I did like 30 days of Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
Just because I was like messing around with I was playing with food.
Yeah.
You know, like how can I make this different? How, you know, X, Y, and Z. And it was just, in a lot of ways, it was just it was a mental challenge,
Yeah.
right? It's like, what do I know? How can we make this better?
What was your favorite way to do them?
So my favorite way actually is to shave them on a mandolin and then roast them and then soak them in clarified butter,
Oh.
right? And then let them drain off and then blitz them and turn it basically into like a Brussels sprout paste.
Wow. That's cool.
I'm like, awesome. Yeah, you do that with some confit garlic.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be homemade sourdough, but like sourdough.
So like
like
a
it's awesome.
Brussels sprout spread.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah, it's cool.
I really liked, I wouldn't do it now because it's not necessarily healthy, but you know, you parboil them
Mm-hmm.
and then coat them in cornstarch and fry them and then hit them with a sauce of whatever variety.
Yeah,
Like a
absolutely.
sweet and sour sauce. Yeah,
Yep.
It's good. It's good stuff. All right, well, we got to wrap up.
Yeah,
we can
no,
keep
good.
talking about food forever. But,
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, it was really nice to meet you, and thanks for coming on and sharing what it is you do, your passion, your wealth of knowledge. You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
And if everybody wants to find you, where can they go?
Super easy. Contemporaryathlete.com is our website. If you want to message me directly, it's Dave at contemporaryathlete.com.
Okay.
And yeah, we're Instagram, same handle. You know, all the places X and Y and
Yeah.
YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Contemporary Athlete. Thank
Yeah,
you, Dave.
thanks.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Stay healthy, my friends.